The moment I realized that BLM, otherwise known as Black Lives Matter, never actually gave a single damn about Black lives was actually before, they went ahead and took all those hundreds of millions of dollars and bought mansions and vacations and all kinds of luxury goods and were popping champagne in the suburbs. Like before that moment, I was already sketched out about the entire thing for the simple fact that they weren't willing to argue for the Black lives that were essentially being taken within Black neighborhoods or, the quote unquote chocolate cities of America, et cetera. Yes, that's a thing. If you are somewhere else in the world watching this right now, there's such thing as a quote unquote chocolate city. Yes, this country is indeed obsessed with race. I know. But anyway, it was at the point where people would try to debate or at least bring up the point of, okay, well, what are we going to do about the crimes happening in Southside Chicago? What are we going to do with the crimes happening in Memphis or New Orleans or whatever it may be, right? Baltimore. And all of a sudden, I saw this almost vengeful, vitriolic sort of energy coming from these individuals. They would fight this tooth and nail. That's racist. How dare you? This is about white people doing this to Black people. Or more specifically, this is about the white police officers doing it to Black folk. But it wasn't about police. It was really about, when it was white on Black, this was an organization that would capitalize off of those moments, racializing those moments. And this isn't to say that hate crimes don't happen, but remember that we are living in the day and age of the juicy Smolliers, the juicy Smolletts, right? Who is still walking around scot-free. A man who pulled off one of the greatest race hoaxes in American history is walking around a free man, did barely community service, after all the state's resources are being used towards this foolishness. Right? He exploited the moment, calling himself the gay Tupac, which is kind of that's kind of redundant if you know the history. I'm not trying to get on the Tupac fans today, but yeah, right? This man was up there like a damn activist when all along it was nothing more than a damn scheme and a scam. So before they started to drain those resources that they were given, that they got as a byproduct of white guilt, right, and race grievance, because, the white folks who were given into it, they felt terrible for the things that they had never done, but their great-great-great-granddaddy may have done. And then, other Black folk, they simply felt that, well, these people are standing for us because we have been wrongfully and unjustly treated throughout history. Maybe not me, but, my great-great-great-grandfather or grandmother at least was. So, it's time to pay up, white folks. It's time to pay up. But before the money came into question, before the scam was exposed, I thought to myself, now, why is it that we can never point to what's happening within the actual quote unquote community? Why is it that it is all of a sudden a racist talking point when we want to correct and fix what's happening? Because look, demographic wise, that's where a majority of these crimes are taking place. It is Black on Black, just like, they love to say that, well, that's because it is a Black community. So in the white community, it is more white on white, and that is accurate. But that's not the entire truth, right? I've done an entire video breaking down basically the unsexy or untold truth about Black on white and white on Black crime is that it is 4 times more likely that a white individual has their life taken by a Black individual than vice versa. That's 2024 statistics, right? That's just the truth. Am I saying that it defines the whole entire demographic of people? No, I'm just saying that those are the facts. So the very least we could do is to look into the community and say, okay, if we're starting a movement, I would have been behind it. I would have been behind it if they said Black Lives Matter means that we want to get this destructive, dysfunctional mentality out of our communities in order for us to not be taking each other's lives. Right? Along with, we don't want to be, persecuted for the color of our skin. We don't want our lives taken by anybody on the basis of our skin color, on the basis of our quote unquote Blackness. I would have been all the way down for that movement right there, because that movement would have segued more realistically in the direction of in the neighborhood, right? Because the numbers just spoke for themselves. In a single weekend, there were more black boys and girls whose lives were taken by somebody that looked like them in a single weekend than the entire year had of white police officers taking the lives of black citizens or black pedestrians or whatever you may say, right? In a single weekend. That entire quote unquote summer of love, right? The year of George Floyd, there were more black boys and black girls who were execution style taken out in a single weekend in Southside Chicago. I remember the story like it was yesterday because it broke, but nobody was pushing in the mainstream media. They had no time for it. You know, it was one of those blurbs. It's like, oh, this many people unalived in Chicago. Next story. Back to the white man taking the black man's life in the middle of the street. They've been hunted down in the streets. I was so fearful for my life when I was first buying into that propaganda, folks. I genuinely believed that I couldn't walk through, any street. I couldn't drive in any street without fearing for my life. Now think about the breakdown of these stats. If 12 people were in that situation, and in that year they say it was 8 to 12 people, black folks whose lives were taken by white police officers specifically. If that was me in that situation, I would be essentially less than the 1 or 0.01% of the population who have been through that experience. I would likely have a higher chance of getting struck by lightning than I would of that, right? I mean, freak accidents, piano falling on the head type of stuff would be more likely than this narrative they were pushing. And so, again, when I started to just do my little own research and started to see the actual numbers, I was confused. But then again, would I be surprised by the mass media? But then when I started looking at BLM and their own response and reaction towards a valid point, that's when it clicked for me. That's when it really hit home. Say, oh, they actually don't care about Black lives at all. That's the ploy. That's the front that they use in order to emotionalize us, because there was no money to be made, because the money conversation came in a little after, but there was no real serious money to be made off of what's actually happening, that the greatest problems, the cultural elements, right? Who's going to donate towards, hey, I think we need to get to a place where, young black boys aren't looking at each other and wanting to take each other's lives. There was no money in that. There was money in, look what the white man is doing. There's always essentially been a market for that. I mean, you could look back at the Tawana Browley case, which was another race hoax. It's probably, if not the first, and the second greatest race hoax, the biggest race hoax in American history. That's where Al Sharpton got his start. I did a review of Actual Justice Warriors, his breakdown of that entire case. It's a crazy story, folks. It is an insane story. This little girl who supposedly was taken by, this group of white men, and she was beat up and she was raped and she was thrown in a trash can, written all over, clothes kind of burnt up, etc. And turns out that the entire thing was made up. But, Al Sharpton never doubled back and said, you know what? I'm a grifter. I'm a liar. I use this as a platform to essentially get some power politically. And now I've been running the same, grift for the last 715 years. No, instead they just brush over it like nothing happened. Or the case with the Duke lacrosse boys, right? With the woman who just came out after 18 years. Oopsie daisy, I was lying. I never even met them. I don't even know those guys. I lied on them. Same woman who happened to be in jail for unaliving her own boyfriend or husband or whatever it was, right? So again, this is never to say that these things don't matter, but then you trivialize when they actually do happen. When there is actually a case of police brutality, it gets trivialized because you've cried wolf so long, right? That's what happens. You have retaliation because you've used the racist slogan. The word racism doesn't even have meaning anymore. It means nothing. People used to be afraid to be labeled as one. Now they say, you know what? Okay, I'll wear it. If that's what you want me to be, then I'll be exactly that. Because at this point, it's like being called a sellout, as a black conservative or something of that nature. It's like, okay, cool. I'll take it. I'll wear it. Whatever. Next. What else do you have for me? What else is there? So again, Black Lives Matter. If they were truly for Black lives, would they not be? And this is a point that millions of people brought up. It's common sense, folks. The things I say on this channel are pretty straightforward. It just so happens that I'm okay taking the arrows in my back because no weapon formed against me shall prosper. So I'm willing to just say these things out loud. I'm willing to be a voice for folks who, I don't know, you might lose your job, you might get canceled, whatever. If you still have that type of, you're still in that environment, maybe if you're in the Bay Area or something like that, then there's still threats of something like that happening. But this is real straightforward, common sense stuff. What about the actual black lives that, in droves, in multitudes, the thousands upon thousands of black lives that are threatened every single day, even if not just unalived, then at least criminality? What about them? What about the grandmothers, the mothers, the fathers who are being robbed in the street? What about them? They don't matter, huh? I guess they don't fit the narrative. They're not going to get the donors pouring in because you don't get to exploit white guilt. But now instead you may have to fundraise within your own demographic, only to realize that, how many people are actually willing to do something about it. It's easy to play the game when you're not the one flipping the bill. It's so easy. That's why quote unquote activists, modern day activists, most of them are a joke to me. There are a few who are out there really doing some serious work, etc. And shout out to you. Even if you're on the side I don't agree with, at least you're doing that footwork. But there's a lot of these so-called activists who are out there protesting outside of buildings. Give us some money. Give us some money. That's really what they're saying. Oh, we want our justice. If you get to the bottom of it, it's always about give me some money. Give me some money. I'll be like, you know what? I will. If you do something that's of value, of service, or, you stand behind a cause that I actually believe in, and that's actually going to be for the betterment. Okay, you got a program where you want to do what? Okay, okay, it's going to be, you're going to uplift them. You're going to put them in engineering and, okay, perfect. I like that. I'm down with that. But instead you're out there scaring the kids halfway to death. Oh, the white man is coming for you. You're disempowering my people. I don't want that. And my people, I don't mean just skin color. I mean people who share my values, those who share my mentality, my ethos in life, those who want to do better for themselves. There are kids who would thrive if they weren't surrounded by this damn race grievance industry. They would thrive, and they're going to, they will at some point shed that dead weight off them, shed that skin off themselves, and they will get to a place where they say, you know what, I'm tired of playing the victim, and I want better for myself. And that's exactly what they'll get. They'll get better for themselves. But shame on them folks, man. Shame on them BLM, bro, man. People are still wearing the pins. Like, I haven't seen my brother in a while. He hasn't talked to me since I voted for Trump. Oh, well. But that brother right there walked in, maybe 2 years back. I was like, you got a BLM pin on. And I'm like, I didn't say it at the time. I was still kind of, I don't want the retaliation of my big brother or whatever. I know, sounds crazy, but it's taken me a lot to get to the place where I am right now. But I'm looking at him like, damn, that's a scam. But I guess people are still giving money to it. White folks in the suburbs are still buying the flags in these little woke parts of America. The 2 or 3 of them that are left, they still waving the damn BLM flag without one black neighbor. I guess that's what they're into. Okay. But BLM is a damn shame. It's a scam and a sham. I could make a whole entire page just talking about them and it wouldn't be enough. Because the fact that they were not only allowed to exist and do what they did, but that they're still being hailed as anything other than, an extremist group who basically they were agitators. They were race baiters. They were race hustlers, at the top. Maybe some believed in it at the bottom, but at the top in their quote unquote leadership, it was none but a money grab, nothing but a scam.
I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. But I can see the light again. I can see the light. You can see the life in him illuminate the night. I know the time is taking. A 3-6-5, that's a full rotation. I see you.